Hello, my name is John Waller. I'm a program manager at the Arrowhead Center, specifically working on the New Mexico FAST program. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about the potential changes to SBIR that are coming in 2025. Now, keep in mind, this is being recorded on October 7th, 2025. And so if you are watching after this, some of these changes might have already been made. But until we have any official decision from Congress, these are all potential changes. So these are the bills that are currently active as of today. We have in the House of Representatives, Bill 5100, and we'll talk about all of these momentarily. We also have the SBIR STTR Reauthorization Act of 2025. This was introduced in the House of Representatives as Bill 3169 and also in the Senate as Bill 1573. So these are technically two different bills, but they have the same or very similar wording. We're going to talk about this as just one bill. And then the Innovate Act, it was introduced into the House of Representatives as Bill 853. So we'll talk about that first one here, House of Representatives Bill 5100. This is a clean reauthorization. It would extend the program as we know it for 1 year with no changes. This was the last one to be introduced, as I understand, and it was introduced in the House of Representatives. It was voted on, already passed, and it was sent to the Senate, where it is now being discussed. The SBIR and STTR Reauthorization Act of 2025 does have some changes. I want to talk a little bit about those and what that could mean in some cases. This includes funding for the FAST program. Now, FAST is Federal and State Technology Partnership Program. This is funded through the Small Business Administration in partnership with the states where you can find this support. Now, this is a program specifically set up for small businesses to help you apply to SBIR and STTR funding. At the moment, they are funded independently, but if this were to pass, this could mean that the funding would be tied together, and so the FAST sites would continue as long as SBIR continues without potentially getting rid of one and not the other. This bill would also increase funding for SBIR and STTR. It would end the reauthorization process, so we wouldn't have years like this year where it all has to go to vote again. It would mandate commercialization support from the funding agencies. This means that it would be at least an officer, if not full office, in the federal funding agency that is giving out awards that has the job of connecting the awarded innovation to a gap in the federal government or within the market somewhere that could help you out getting from your completed SBIR phase 1 and 2 actually to some commercialization in some capacity. That could be, of course, purchased through the federal government, or it could be helping you out as you commercialize in the private market. It would also increase awareness for phase 3. Now, phase 3 is something that most people really don't talk about. It's really hard to get, but within the SBIR program, there's phase 1 that helps you out with feasibility. There's phase 2 that helps you out with prototyping. And then there's phase 3 where there's not actually any money from the SBIR and STTR program to help you out. Phase 3 is generally considered just your commercial success, but it's not just that. There's also the opportunity for any agency across the government to give you an award of any amount of funding and any period of performance, and it could come anytime after a successful phase 1 or phase 2. And so that no one really talks about it much, and this would increase awareness for that program, hopefully increasing the amount of innovations that are being transferred and adopted and accepted into different federal agencies across the government. It would also increase the countries that could be a concern in the due diligence process. So right now, the due diligence process looks for any foreign involvement in your business, looking for investors and key personnel that might have access to sensitive data. Those are the main areas that they're looking for. Right now, that the countries of concern is a relatively small list, but with the potential changes coming through this bill, it would increase the number of countries that could be a concern. The Innovate Act has quite a few more potential changes. So we'll talk through all of these. But it would do a similar thing, so we'll keep that same thread. It could increase the number of countries that would be a concern during that due diligence process. It would also extend the due diligence process to look at you and your company 10 years before the award, and then also continue to monitor it up to 10 years after the award. Which, how exactly that's going to be done and what exactly that means, if there are clawbacks where you have to pay back the award or something like that, is still not entirely clear. But this does make things potentially more challenging for small businesses. There's a focus on rural and emerging states, meaning that there is a tendency for a lot of these SBIR and STTR awards to go to the same states. There are a couple that tend to be hubs for innovation. There's a lot of funding that goes in that direction just because there's experience and there's more funding there to put into, grant writers and things like that. But there, through this bill, would be a push to include more of the rural and emerging states, some of the states that are getting fewer awards, to hopefully get more innovation out of those areas. And along with that would come the phase 1A. And so I mentioned earlier there's phase 1, phase 2, kind of a phase 3. This would introduce a new phase at the very beginning of phase 1A, where the award would be up to $40,000 for about a 2-page long application. And if anyone has looked at SBIR and STTR awards before, you know that a 2-page application is very small. And this would be specifically for brand new applicants if you've never applied to SBIR and STTR before. Applicant businesses must make less than $40 million per year. Now, this will be based on the prior year's tax returns, is how this would be determined. This has the goal of reducing the number of large businesses that are just taking this in as potentially an extra pool of money that is relatively easy for them to apply to. With or without the commercialization piece. Potentially with the idea being that if you're making 40 million per year, you have enough money to do the research and development on your own without this federal funding. Pros and cons to that. This also would introduce the idea of a strategic breakthrough, which would allow the Department of War to award up to $30 million in a phase 2, which right now, I believe the Department of War is pretty close to about $2 million in a phase 2. And so if the situation aligns itself and your company has something that the Department of War desperately needs and you need more than $2 million to do it, there's the chance that you could get an award that's much larger than that, up to 30 million. And so there's a little bit more. The Innovate Act does have a lot of changes in it, but it would also introduce a cutoff if your business has received $75 million in SBIR funding. That's SBIR or STTR. The idea, again, is that you don't want to have a business that just continues to apply for SBIR, brings in a bunch of SBIR money, and then never commercializes anything. And so that is a problem that Congress is trying to figure out how to deal with. And this is one of the ideas that they've had. Again, some pros and cons there. This also has a potential change of only allowing up to 3 proposals per solicitation in a year, and then only allowing up to 25 proposals to be submitted to a specific agency within a year. Now, this really applies most to Department of War because they are releasing new solicitations currently on the first Wednesday of every month. And so each month there are new solicitations. And if each month you're able to put in up to 3 applications per solicitation, it would be pretty easy to get to 25 proposals or more within a given year. And so they're trying to cut down on the administrative burden on the agencies by reducing the number of applications that it's possible for a business to submit. Some final thoughts on this. Keep in mind, none of these changes are guaranteed. They are all being discussed right now. We will very likely see some changes even to what we've talked about today. And then we talked about 3 very different bills. So one of them is going to have to get through for the SBIR process to continue. At the moment, there's a little bit of a gap. We're on hold until Congress makes a decision. If you have any questions, please reach out to your local FAST site. I talked a little bit about that. It's federal and state technology partnership program. Almost every state has one. If you are having any trouble finding your particular FAST site, please feel free to reach out to me or go to sbir.gov and you can search through there to find the closest FAST site to you. If you'd like to reach out, here's my contact information. If I'm unavailable, please go to our website. We've got New Mexico Fast here, and we also have the Arrowhead Center, which hosts New Mexico Fast. So please go to either one of those websites. If you are in the state of New Mexico and you have a small business and you are interested in seeing what programs we have to offer, please go to that Arrowhead website and see. I think currently we have about 26-ish different programs, all designed to help small businesses grow and, in this case, get some federal funding. So thank you for sticking around, and I will see you next time.